Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts, and now BidamountLive.com. As many of you know, we got the site that we've been working on for the last, I don't know, it seems like 10 months up and finally, and here it is. It's loaded. Many of you have seen the video we did earlier this week on it, and you got emails from the newsletter subscribers letting you know it's been posted. We've had a lot of new subscribers suddenly. It's been very nice, many more than I thought. A lot of good dealers have signed up, and I'm hoping that they'll get some things up there as quickly as they can. It came out quite well. We're very, very pleased with it. If anybody has any trouble, let me know. One of the things I did want to mention was that we had said in the other video that we're going to add some instructional videos to the site for people that want to learn how to use it, how to open an account, how to upload images. It's all very simple, but I thought we'd do it. And if you open the help and info menu and click open anything on here, you'll find the videos on the right-hand side that we did on how to use the site, an intro to the video that we posted on YouTube, and then these other videos that are not on YouTube publicly, but they're for our users to go through, whether you're a buyer or a seller or whatever your use of the site is. And we're just going to roll forward from here. Just a little bit to let you know. For folks that get loading images up this weekend on here, I hope many of you do, because starting next Monday and Tuesday, we're going to be going through the images that come in and search engine optimizing them for Google and Bing and all the other search channels that are out there, tagging the photos and setting them up to get out there on the internet, because these will be visible on various search engines immediately once we do what's called ping the site out again. At any rate, we'll take care of that, all the technical stuff. If there's any trouble, let us know. There shouldn't be. And that's it, all right? But thanks so much, and I hope a lot of you use this site. We would love to see this thing grow into something great for everybody. We've designed it for that purpose specifically. I want people to have a nice environment to buy, sell, collect, and so forth. And we're open to other features that may be added going down the road, of course, as we are with everything we do, because we just like to add things endlessly. All righty. And that's the news. That's the news on the site. And thanks so much for all of your positive help and support and advice and suggestions and all that good stuff. So let's see how it goes. We'll just keep it growing from here. Okay, now over to auction news this week. We didn't have a chance. I had wanted to, but we didn't have a chance to get to the pre-sale stuff for Sotheby's, Christie's, and Bottoms too much, just because we ran out of time. We had so much going on with the site and doing all the regular stuff we have to do. We didn't have a chance to, but we are going to do a post-auction one, I promise. And a couple of things that happened. There is some news from the auctions this week. One of them, of course, was this thing, the Shapiro collection bronze. This was the one that got so much attention pre-sale. It had been in the Lubschewitz collection. It had been passed through through James Lally, the legendary New York dealer, who I just was reading a story about. He's retiring from the gallery. He's not leaving the business or anything like that. I think he's going to do a lot of lecturing and probably do some writing. But he is closing his gallery after nearly, well, I think he said 35 years. It's hard to believe it's been that long, but I guess it has. And Jim had been at Sotheby's for many years. He's the reason Sotheby's is at the prominence that it is today in Hong Kong, because he was the guy that built it. And kudos to him for that. And at any rate, he had handled this bronze and sold it, and it had an estimate of $4 to $6 million, and it blew through that estimate and brought $8.6 million. But bear in mind, of course, that this is just one of only a handful of known examples, and this is maybe one of the best ones there is. So somebody got an amazing bronze for a lot of money. All right. The other thing I want to mention is that for the last couple of years, we've been, especially since the last year, I've mentioned a number of times in the videos that we're starting to see some activity and life back in the Japanese market, which has been all but dormant almost, it seems, for the last 20 years. And Christie's had a great auction of Chinese stuff, and I had mentioned that they have two of these prints of the Great Wave by Hokusai, and one of them was estimated at, they were both estimated at under $200,000 or less, 150, 200,000. This one was the better of the two by a bit, but very fine example. And wait till you see what it brought. 1.5 million with a $150,000 to $200,000 estimate. That's a very powerful statement when it comes to the auction market, that the prices are that high above the estimates for Japanese art these days, because for a long time Japanese art was very sluggish, and it seems to be that there was a refocus on that market, and this auction that Christie's did across the board blew away the estimates almost for the whole sale. It's a really strong resurgence is happening, it seems. So we'll see where it goes from there, which was very exciting. And the other big news, of course, was this, the Young-Lo bowl that was found at a yard sale, according to the news reports. It was sold at Sotheby's. We had talked about it in the last video. It was an unmarked example, which most of them are. It ended up with a $300,000 to $500,000 estimate. And in the end, it sold for $721,800, which is a pretty good return on $35 at a yard sale. All right. But still a wonderful example, and a handful of these known. And we talked about it at some length, and we're going to cover it some more when we do the videos reviewing how the prices were. The prices overall, this is the interesting to note, was that rarities, recent, new to the market, just discovered with a good story, did very, very well. But a lot of the Sotheby sale was a little bit soft for the more standard stock and trade stuff. Things that had maybe been through the auction market a number of times in the last 20 years. The market is not that interested in the stuff that's being churned or that has been churned for a profit. So you want to keep an eye on that. I'm not saying the market is bad. I'm just saying that the market is getting increasingly selective, increasingly narrower, and certain pieces, if they're not estimated properly, aren't going to get off the ground. All right. And that's the way it is. Okay. But still a strong market by all indications from the rarities, and rarities decide what the market is. All right. Now over here to this. This was over on the newsletter last week. A very nice pair of rhombus form. They called them clair de lune. They're really not clair de lune. The color is too dark. But relief work white against a blue glaze rhombus form vases on these wonderful stands. These are late Qing examples, beautifully done. They were in nice condition. The quality of the detail work on them was quite excellent. You notice this nice high relief work all over them, very delicately done, very high quality. And these are not early. These are late Qing, possibly even Republic period. There were some glaze flaws on the inside, which is pretty typical on the old ones. You can actually see, the interesting thing is, you can actually see the finger marks and the hand marks inside when they formed these, because these, of course, were not created on a wheel, but were shaped from slabs and so forth. But beautifully done all the way through. Lovely details. And I think somebody got a good buy. All right. The more I looked at them, the more I liked them. They ended up selling for 1,100 euros with a 1,000 to 2,000 euro estimate. So they ended up going for about $1,500, which I think is perfectly fine. The seller had them as 19th century. It could be 19th century or very early 20th century, but it doesn't matter. They're absolutely lovely, and I think they were a very good buy for someone. This style of porcelain still seems to be lagging in the market a little bit, so it's a good opportunity for collectors. All right. The other thing was this Kangxi dish, beautifully done, almost in the Japanese style in some degree. I love the outer border and underglaze blue and iron underglaze copper red running around the side with this sort of archaic serpentine form. And then, of course, the paper, the scroll. You see the scroll ends here, and how it's rolled out across the center of the plate, displaying, prunus blossoms. All right. And this plate did okay, but I think it was a good buy. Somebody paid 207 euros for it, for an unusual pattern, very well done with good artwork on it. Not bad price at all. Very, very good. And then on to this, a really interesting Kangxi period dish with a rather unusual pattern, very crisp enamels, not a lot of wear to the enamels. I didn't notice any particular chipping on them. They look to be in very, very good condition. But the enamels were very strong, good, very strong enamels. And, if you looked at it first, you might wonder if it is Kangxi. And all you need to do is flip it over and look at the back and look at that foot rim. That is a Kangxi foot, from what I can see, in this nice sort of matte finish glaze, a few little pinholes, all the little things you want to see. And of course, the colors were very, very good all the way through. Lovely plate, and ended up selling, I think, reasonably. I had a 400 to €450 estimate. Ended up selling for 220 euros, or roughly, it comes out to about what, $250, $260, which I think was a very fair price, very reasonable, and a good addition if you're a collector of Kangxi porcelains. And then over here to this. This is something you don't see a heck of a lot. This was a seller in the United States who was selling a carved tortoiseshell Cantonese style card case. And we all recognize it, of course, because they carved virtually identical examples, of course, in elephant ivory. Tortoiseshell boxes are rarer by a mile. For every one of these you see, you can see 15 or 20 ivory boxes. And for some reason, I think they're underpriced in the market. But this was a very nice tortoiseshell example, beautifully done. Had a few little bits of wear on here. It could be oiled up and cleaned up considerably. It would look very, very, very nice. Ended up selling for $830, which I think was very reasonable for a sort of hard to find object. You don't find these very often. You typically see the circular boxes more often, done in tortoiseshell, and this one was done in a cardboard case, which is very interesting. All right, now hop over to here was this Shenfang Famille Rose hat stand with these nicely shaped openings. Beautiful quality enameling. When I first saw this at a glance, I wasn't sure if it was an old one because the way the pictures were done, but when you pull in and look at the details, it's an old one. Nicely done, rain-marked bottom. The seller didn't think it was from the period, but probably a little later. You could very well be right on it. But nice quality detail, nice shading of the enamels, little bits of orange peel in the enameling itself. The gilding was all in good shape, all of it. You don't see any wear. And the piece was in very nice condition. Ended up selling for $1,449, which is a good price for that. It's a good, strong price, but it's a good example and in good condition, which is crucial with these things. And it could easily be market period because of the quality of the work. All right, and then over to this. This was that mother of pearl shell Satsuma dish that we talked about a week or two ago. It's not really a dish. It's actually like a platter. This thing is 15 inches wide, roughly, and had these very nicely done liuhans all over it. And I loved how they did the border and all this. And these plates have been around. They've been known for years. I've had them. Lots of people have had them. They're not common, but if you've been dealing in Satsuma for any length of time, you probably have owned one. And here's the outside of it with seashells. This is all the cool stuff that goes onto it. So it looks like a beach. Really interesting. They put shells all over it. And there's the dimensions, 14 and a half inches. There's the dimensions. A nice example. And here's a shot of the outside. And then they use mollusk shells and mussel shells and so forth to create the feet. Very clever, naturalistically done. This brought $1,696. As I said, Japanese things are starting to get increasing amounts of interest. And then the Kinkazon Base, very handsome example, about a foot tall, but very good detail on it. Nice deep dark cobalt, nice shape to it. And here you have Mount Fuji in the background, and geishas or females inside of a scene. Here are some in a garden with their parasols. And these, of course, were made for export. All these Satsuma pieces, they were made for the export market because of the fascination with Japan and the Orient, as they used to call it at the time. And the Satsuma studios, Kinkazon, and they made lots of these very fine examples for export, very fine enameling. And this was a nice one. And I think it was a very good buy. Bought $1,325. And it is, was it about a foot tall, as I recall? Pretty sure. There it is, 12 inches tall. Huh, I remembered. Okay. Pretty good memory sometimes. And I think that was a nice buy for someone. Very attractive vase in beautiful condition. And then on to this, the nodding head, the nodders, they call them. These are sort of unusual. If you haven't seen them before, it's because they don't come up very often. And these were made probably in the early 19th century, judging by the coloring. They originally were made in the 18th century. But these two figures were big. These were 16 inches tall, beautifully enameled, and very unusually enameled. This turquoise ground on the robes is quite unusual of these. When I first saw them, I wasn't sure how old they were because they looked to be in such good shape. Often the knotters, they have breaks in them because the heads actually lift off of the figure. Let's see if we can find one here. There it is. And this is how they lift out, and the head can be tilted and turned and played with. It's a novelty thing. They made in China. They made these for the export market. Here's a picture of the base. You have this nice pink that's very typical of 18th century porcelains, but it was continued into the 19th century. But when you look at the foot on here, this flat bottom and there's the iron decoration running up here, little bits of kiln grit and all that. And you come over here and you look at the way the enamels here are done, this iron red, and the fingers have a couple of minor little tip breaks on them, which is totally acceptable on these. They have this beautifully done black hair and so forth. These were quite nice, very, very lovely. The Peabody Museum in Salem has these, the famous PEM. Any rate, well, because they have the best China trade collection in the world, so that's it. Any rate, they brought $9,021, but they were big, good color, unusual color, in very good condition, and they're rare. And I think that was a good buy for someone who's really into Chinese export porcelain. And because of their size, they look fabulous on a mantle, out on a nice display in a living situation, a room or front hall or something like that. Just very nice. And then over here to the little jade man, there he is. Beautiful carving, nice piece of old jade, old mutton fat jade, nice color. Notice the stone doesn't have any brown inclusions. It's very even, no dark gray areas to distract your eye. Here's a good shot of it. You can see the reflection, all the little cutting and hand polishing here in the reflections. Nice facial, happy facial expression. And it ended up selling for $2,150. But you have to be careful. There are a lot of copies and fakes of these on the market. You really have to look at the surface of the jade very, very carefully and look carefully at how the face is styled and how the robes are styled and compare them to well-known examples to make sure you're not buying a copy, because they do copy these. But this one didn't look to be a copy to me at all. The surface looked absolutely right. And apparently it did to a lot of people. It had 34 bids and sold for $2,150. And then over here, the Hatcher Cargo inscribed bowl. This was from the guys Shangri-La, the ceramics and collectibles guys, as I call them. A very nice old Hatcher Cargo bowl. And you notice there's some discoloration and so forth on the surface. That's because these came from a shipwreck. And this was at a sale that was held by Christie's back in March of 1984. And this was a nice example. It was all inscribed and had the boat scene on one side and so forth. Ended up selling for $470, which I don't think is bad at all, to have a nice documented datable bowl with script, and it looked to be in decent condition, other than the natural deterioration in places of glaze due to seawater immersion. The salt is so corrosive. All right, and then over to this, the little export covered food pot with these nice little sort of semi-roux head shaped handles on the side. Here's picture of the interior. It had a hairline in it here, very faint light hairline, and a couple of, he says in the listing, there's some minor insect, what they call insect bites, which are next to the cafe ground lid on the edge. I couldn't really see him, to be honest with you, but the piece looked to be in very nice overall condition, and somebody stole this. Somebody got this really cheap, to put it mildly, $57. That's a great way to buy Chinese porcelain. It's a nice example. It's a bit of an unusual example, and it's yours. And this was sold, let's see here. This was a seller via Plaza in the Netherlands. And his shipping seemed quite reasonable. $36 economy shipping to the United States, where I am, for example. Very fair, very reasonable. Always want to make your shipping reasonable. All right, and then on to this, the katana stand done in lacquer. They dated it as Edo period, could be, or it could be very early Meiji, but we always have to remember that during the Meiji period, the shogunates were all dissolved by the palace. The 1.3 million samurai were basically all tossed out of work, but so they didn't make a lot of stands after that. But the quality of decoration on this looked quite good. Here's a back shot of it and so forth. We'd stand the sword up and its point going into this little hole down here. And it did okay. It brought $425, but it was a dandy buy if you're a samurai collector. All right, and then over to this, the hairbrush. Again, another nice piece of Cantonese ivory carving, and this is a part of a lady's hairbrush set. And these were made with a matching mirror. You would have had a comb, maybe some little pin boxes, circular boxes to put hairpins in, and so forth for a well-off woman's dressing table. This was not something you'd find everywhere. And what's nice about this brush was that all the bristles were in very good condition. Often you see these and they're so grungy and rotten looking, you wouldn't dare put it in your hair. This looks like it could still be used, and it probably could. And it sold for $515, which isn't bad. And then over to this, the silver box. This was just a simple, unsigned, but very nicely done relief work with stipple ground silver, and it looks like it's been inlaid maybe with either gold leaf or possibly maybe some sort of copper or brass sheeting added. Not sure. Anyway, it sold for $218, which is very reasonable. Nice little silver box. It was about a little over 2 inches wide. Again, this was for a lady's table, most likely, to put pins in or something small to keep them from getting lost. But a nice little piece of silver. And then over here on Catawiki was this very good in-row. This was a really good looking one. I love the lacquer work on it, and I like the silver overlay of the dragon. Beautifully done, beautiful quality. And here are some clouds and relief in black lacquer and gold lacquer coming up, and then the silver dragon, and just beautifully done. The string, of course, is replaced. The strings on these you typically are, but a nice example. And I think somebody got a good one. And it sold for 1,025 euros, which is about right for that, or about $1,400, but a very handsome example. And it was probably made around 1800, later Edo period. Beautiful quality. Really is. Nice thing. And then over into what's coming up this week, there's quite a few things. One is this beautiful pair of Japanese stirrups. These are from Mark Wahlberg, the seller over in Pennsylvania, who gets such good things. He sells under artsandsunlink.net. He's been on eBay for years and years and years. He's extremely knowledgeable about Asian art and Japanese art especially. And this is a lovely pair he's got up. Typically, sometimes you see these, they only offer one for sale. He's got a pair, and the lacquer looks to be in good shape. Very often the lacquer on these is just beaten absolutely to death. It's in horrible condition. Those are in pretty good shape, 17th or 18th century, he thinks, and you can go with his opinion. $160 so far. They should bring a lot more than that, but they close in 8 days. We'll see where they go, but very handsome pair. And then also is this pith painting. This is sort of an interesting little pith painting because pith painting is so susceptible to breakage and damage. And this piece has this lovely old sort of, I won't call it grunge, but this sort of old a little bit of dirt on the surface here that gives it a very nice sort of antique feeling to it. I like it. This is the pith just oxidizes and absorbs a little bit of dirt because pith is almost like a sponge. It's made from slices of wood taken from the pith tree. It's not actually a true paper. They slice paper thin bits off of the pith tree and then they paint on it. Here we go, and but nicely decorated, nicely painted grass. Grass is coming up. There's the bird, red-headed herons. They look like. And it's only up to $48. It closes Sunday. It's framed and ready to go. If you ever wanted to own sort of a funky, interesting piece of pith, this is it. It's a nice one. And then over here on this is an unusual thing. This is a mother of pearl inlaid into wood framed plaque. And on it, the seller says they're playing Go. Playing checkers. They're not. They're playing Go, which is sort of like Chinese checkers. But they're sitting on these very nice 18th century looking stools. And what I really caught my eye was this lovely old root formed stand with a fish tank on top of it. Okay, very interesting, very, very interesting. Now he has this is Kangxi 0219 over in Sweden is selling this, and he has it dated as 18th century. He's quite knowledgeable, so I'm going to have to take his word for it. If I'd seen it, I wouldn't think it was quite that old, but he's very sharp dealer and he knows what he's doing, so we're going to go with it if that's what he feels. But very interesting piece of burl wood or whatever this is. It's a beautiful wood, almost looks like marble. Very nice selection of wood. There's the other side of it. And it has a nice looking back to it, very well done, nice grain, nicely figured wood, old frame, and we'll see how that does. And then also this very nice piece of realgar. People that collect realgar glass, Peking glass, this is a good one, good size, late 19th, early 20th century example, but beautifully shaped. The shape on this is exceptional, really is. And if you flip the piece around here, we'll go through, there it is. You can see the glass turnings inside. A couple of very, very tiny, tiny, tiny nicks on the inside, which is normal on these. And we'll see how that does. It should do quite well. It should do quite well. It's up to $12.50 and expected to bring probably 300 to 500, somewhere in there. And then over here to this. These are interesting. They have Wongshu marks on them, and I believe that they're period, mark and period. I don't think they're imperial, but I do think they're probably mark and period, judging by the foot rim on the back and the way the marks are done in this manner, very typical of the period. Here they are side by side. And these are interesting. These are divided sauce dishes or condiment dishes. And what's interesting is that they're in the same pattern that you see on Guangzhou period plates all the time. It's a very popular pattern on plates, and now it's being used on this. And the form is nice, and the porcelain looks to be of good quality. And these are up to $118, 2 days to go. Expect them should bring $800 to $1,500, $1,000 to $1,500 anyway. All right, and they could bring more if people get really excited about them. And then these are a very nice pair of late Ming or early Qing Dynasty bronzes. Beautifully done. He has them listed, I think, as Ming. It could be slightly after that, but very nice. They're about 10 inches tall. They are a good pair and nice surface on them. You can check them out. They'll be in the newsletter this week, and I think these are going to do quite well at the end. They're at $410 with 2 days to go, and expect them to be in the $1,400 to $1,800 range by the time they're all in and done. And then last is this, another piece of tortoiseshell mounted in a silver, looks like a silver frame, meant to be hung and maybe around your neck. It's got a monogram here in the center, but nice quality, stipple ground, these nice relief work trees, Chinese table, women with a fan, all the sort of typical, idyllic landscape that you see in Chinese artwork all the time. These are up to $52. They're being offered by a seller in Oregon. So if you're in the U.S., you don't have to worry about them coming through customs, and because you're technically not supposed to sell them, but that's life. And we'll see how they do. All right. And that's about it for the week. And it's been a busy, busy week for us. We're very pleased with the way the new site is going. And there were some good sales this week over on Live Auctioneers and on the global member pages. If you haven't checked, you're going to find a lot of Japanese material on there right now. It seems like the auction house is starting to wake up to the new interest in Japanese art. And there's obviously quite a bit of Chinese material there too. So check it all out. All righty. And we'll be back next week. And we'll be search engine optimizing the new website to get everybody promoted nicely as best as we possibly can. And we go on from here. All right. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.